Good morning, everybody. A little louder. You can do it. Sao Paulo, come on. My name is Suresh Vittal. I'm an analyst at Forrester Research. For those of you who don't know Forrester Research, we are an independent marketing and technology research company. We analyze trends and make recommendations to marketers and business and technologists on how technology is going to change their lives. So I'm going to spend the next hour talking to you about a topic that is of great passion for me, building a world-class marketing technology strategy. Right? For those of you in the audience that would like to Twitter, by all means do. As far as I know, nobody in this room is having sex, so this is fair game, right? We are entering an age of the customer, right? The previous speaker talked a lot about how social, mobile are transforming consumer interactions and engagement. What I would suggest to you is that in today's world, marketing organizations, marketers, have to embrace technology, analytics, and business process, right? To truly embrace the age of the customer, right? Without these three capabilities, surviving and thriving in the age of the customer is not going to be possible. Now, very quickly, as marketers, we aren't used to technology or analytics. So these are competence we have to build, right? What I'm going to do over the next 50 plus minutes is talk to you a little bit about the changing marketing environment. I'd love to share with you and showcase some of Forrester's thinking and Forrester's data, specifically when it comes to Brazil. I then want to spend a little time talking about some of the biggest challenges marketers are facing with technology. I will then talk about this technology stack that we refer to as enterprise marketing management, explain to you the different pieces in an enterprise marketing management solution, and then give you some tips and tricks on how you establish a marketing technology strategy. Okay? So today's marketing environment, I think the biggest thing that we can say about today's marketing environment is it's always changing, right? It's changing, complexity is exploding as channels grow and expand. And these channels create challenges for marketing organizations. They create challenges for businesses. They create challenges for the consumers. And every interaction that the consumer has with us, with marketing, with brands in these channels, requires the brands to change how they do business previously, right? Here's a quick data point for all of you to think about. This was suggested to the world by Eric Schmidt, Google's chairman, in the technology conference held last year, right? He talks about, and I'll read this for you, every 2 days, we create as much information as we did from the dawn of civilization up until 2003. Let's say Eric Schmidt's having a bad day, and he was exaggerating, right? Let's say it wasn't until 2003, but to the start of the century. That is still a lot of data. And I would suggest to you that all this information and data is being created because your consumers are now controlling the process, are controlling and choosing how they interact with you through a whole host of different channels. And each one of these interactions, each one of these engagements creates a trail of data. As marketers and as marketing organizations, I think you would be doing your consumers a disservice. You would be doing your business a disservice if you didn't pay attention to these interactions, didn't pay attention to this data. Social media. One of the biggest challenges marketing organizations face. This wrestling of control out of the hands of the brand and right into the hands of the consumer. It almost feels like the phenomenon of social media was invented for the Brazilians. You guys are the most social country I know. Ever since I've landed in Sao Paulo 3 days ago, only friendly faces, lots of energy, people looking to talk to you, sharing information, sharing insights. So I took a quick look at Forrester's data that we call social technographics. Social technographics is our segmentation model that we apply to the audience to understand the level of usage of social media. Out of our data analysis, we create 6 segments. Let me briefly explain to you what these 6 segments are. At the bottom are inactives. My grandmother is inactive. Right? Right above that are spectators. These are people who read content on social sites, who listen, who watch. They don't participate yet. They're spectators. My mother, who lives in Kenya, Nairobi, is a spectator. If I don't post pictures of my 2 children every week on Facebook, she calls me on the phone. She has started to use Skype now, which means she makes a free call and talks for a long time. And she asks me why I haven't posted pictures. Right? The next level, you have the joiners. This is my dad, right? He's joined Facebook. He maintains a profile. He visits it very often and does stuff. Ahead of them are the collectors. These are people who are constantly tagging, classifying content, curating content. Above that are the critics. People who comment, who post ratings and reviews, who share, who have this urge to share the knowledge they have with the rest of the world. They contribute to the wikis. They comment on other people's blogs. And then finally, the final segment are creators. These are people who actively create content in social media. I think I fit into this category. Not as much as I would like to, because I'm in Sao Paulo and enjoying the weather. But when I'm in Boston and in the cold, I try to write my blog or post on Twitter and so on. Now, as I told you, I thought social media was invented for Brazil, right? So we went back and we did some analysis, and I pulled some data on how Brazilians embrace social media. How do Brazilians fit into the social technographics ladder as I described it? Amazingly, with the exception of inactives, Brazil is more penetrated in social media than the United States. 92% of Brazilians are spectators. Now, keep in mind, you can belong to more than one category. So if you add up those numbers, it's not going to be 100%. Okay? 51%, so more than half of online Brazilians are collectors. 72%, even more, are creators. So I think the big takeaway for me as I was looking at this data and I was speaking to other businesses in Brazil was this is a big challenge for marketing organizations. And the reason we think that you have to pay attention to this and figure out ways to handle this is because your consumers expect social interactions from you. Now here you'll see some data on what consumers expect companies to do using social media. Firstly, they expect you, almost as a requirement to doing business, to listen to what they're saying online and responding to what they're saying online. From a technology standpoint, these are listening platforms. These are those listening tools that allow you to monitor activities around your brand, around your product, in places like Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and so on. But not only are they expecting you to listen and react to their comments and messages, they're also expecting you to interact with them. They're expecting you to provide coupons and discounts and be interactive when they are interacting with social tools. Now, let's go further, right? They want you to use these tools as a primary mode of communications to communicate with them and their peers. They look to you to provide forums and platforms to allow them to interact with other buyers and users of your products. This is a significant shift for marketing. Marketing is a very personal activity for marketers. They jealously protect the brand that they spend billions of dollars building in traditional channels and traditional media. Now the consumer is asking you to open the door to that brand. This is hard for marketers to do, but it's expected of us. Another big challenge, given this explosion of channels that we see around us, the marketing funnel as we know it is dead. This old school thinking that consumers interact with a brand in a linear fashion is no longer true. We cannot restrict them to these swim lanes as you see here on the slide. Last year I was out to buy a flat screen television in preparation for the World Cup. So I spent some time on CNET, read a bunch of reviews. I went to Amazon.com. I looked at the different brands. I settled on a Samsung 46-inch television. I decided to walk into the store. We have a brand called Best Buy in the United States. I'm not sure if you have that in Brazil. I walked into Best Buy, took a look at the television, went back home, talked to a few friends about it on Facebook, discussed the pros and cons of it. I work in research, so I have to do my research. And then I ended up saying, should I buy it online? Should I buy it at the store? And my son says, let's go buy it in the store. My 5-year-old says, let's go buy it in the store. I'm like, no, let's buy it online. I don't want to deal with the store. No, we are going to the store. So I'm not sure if you've tried arguing with a 5-year-old, but you don't win. So we walked into the store, and the store manager says, welcome, sir. Let's help you buy a television. He logs on to bestbuy.com, right, and makes a purchase for me there. And I tell him, oh, but my son wants to buy it in the store. Yes, we're buying it in the store, sir, but we're buying it online, right? And then the television gets delivered to me. Free shipping. And this is the challenge, right? Now, when Best Buy looks at my purchase of a Samsung television, who gets credit for that sale? Is it the review site where I started to do my research? Is it the Samsung website where I gathered the pros and cons? Is it tvblogger.com where I talked to other buyers of television and looked at their comments and ratings and reviews? Is it the store manager who bought it for me online? Is it my 5-year-old who took me into the store? Right? This is the challenge that we face every day as we think about our customers. They don't make decisions linearly. We try to put them in a linear bucket. And this is where that second topic I talked to you about, analytics, comes in. Thinking about how we offer attribution to these hundreds of channels that they interact with when they come to make a brand. Now, another big change in marketing's life is that interactive channels and by interactive channels I mean online, social, and mobile channels, are now marketing's growth engine of choice. And by this I mean that marketers expect the effectiveness of these channels to grow. These are addressable channels where we can make decisions in real time, which is what our consumers want from us. Here's a quick data set that talks about how the world population is going online. Forrester projects that by 2014, almost 700 million new consumers will go online. And this isn't limited to North America or Europe, but every region in the world participates in this transition online. Now, I know you saw some data previously about shoppers and shopping. Latin American consumers are moving online for shopping, right? In 2011, where there were about 10 billion in spending online, to more than twice, so doubling of this by 2016, 22 billion. As marketers, now you have a challenge in front of you, which is you need to balance the spend. And balancing the spend comes with its own unique challenges. It used to be that we would have to balance spend across 4 television networks and maybe a couple of newspapers and a couple of magazines. Today, you have to balance the spend across those 4 television networks, some magazines and newspapers, but also hundreds of digital, social, mobile, and online channels. And the uniqueness of these interactive channels is it's real time. You can track and measure performance in real time. Which means as marketers, you have to embrace technology. Now, this other phenomenon, this other challenge that I think of that marketing organizations are facing is something that Forrester refers to as the splinter net. Think of the splinter net as the fracturing of the web, as the breaking of the web, if you will. So stay with me here as I play out a little bit of history for you. Let's start in 1989 to 93. Right? This was the pre-internet era, if you will. This was the age of AOL, CompuServe, users accessing content in a single environment. You saw the emergence of email. The early adopters start to come on. 94 to 98, open internet standards are established. Search engines become the primary mode of finding and retrieving information. The web browser, the PCs become the primary access to online channels. 99 to 2004, we see the e-commerce boom, if you will. Right? Online commerce flourishes. You saw the dot-com boom, the dot-com bust. New payment models emerge in online channels, pay-per-click, and so on, pay-per acquisition, CPA, CPM, all those other things happened. 2005 to a couple of years ago, the era of social. Consumers started to gain control over brands, over the conversation. Consumers demand that you have interactions with them on their terms, not yours. You saw the socializing of the web. Behemoths like Facebook and Twitter emerge. 2010 and beyond, we're now starting to see the fracturing of the web. You see users connect through multiple devices. A browser may not be the primary device used to access content. Mobile applications start to show up. You see content protected behind walled gardens. To have the privilege of accessing that content, we have to log in, provide our credentials. You see that on Facebook, you see that on iTunes, you see that on Twitter. Each one of these walled gardens of content have proprietary standards. iOS, Android, Facebook Connect. There is some openness built in, but they're fundamentally proprietary standards and proprietary access methods. Now, when marketing went through each one of those previous eras, the pre-internet, the early internet, the dot-com boom, social computing, we learned to change our behavior. We learned to adopt new technologies, new methods, new analytics, and so on. The splinternet will require us to also change. In some ways, the splinternet will have significant change in how we behave. For instance, we could reach anybody online in the previous era, in the internet era. In the splinternet era, we will reach specific devices and specific site members, people who've wanted to hear from us. The user experience used to be limited to the browser and a PC. In the splinternet, the user experience will be varied. As marketers, this is scary. The content that you so carefully created and optimized to show up in a browser now has to show up in hundreds or thousands of devices. Measurement used to be multiple analytics providers who would share web analytics, social analytics, and so on. The splinternet will call for a different way of measuring. Because guess what? How we acquire users to our content, to our proprietary content, will not be search. It'll be a different form of search. The marketing process, the way we produce content and deliver it to our end audience, used to be channel-centric. We had campaigns for email, for search, for print, and so on. If we remain channel-centric, the amount of work we have to do is going to explode, because there's hundreds of thousands of channels. So now the marketing process starts to become more relationship-centric. You have to create modular assets that can be used in multiple platforms. The skills we used to rely on were creative in nature in the internet era. Media buyers, data analysts, creative builders. Now we need engineers, app developers, mobile integrators. So marketing as we know it in the splinternet era changed. So for you, this is interesting, because now you have to change as well, and you have to embrace, as I said, technology, analytics, and business process to survive in this era. Today, marketing is going to be less art and more craft. Left brain approaches dominate marketing today. Numbers. Marketers are expected to be mathematicians and scientists because there is so much data coming at us. We're expected to have more process than we ever did before. And we need this process because velocity of programs and the real-time nature of interactions demands process. We need new tactics. As you heard previously about the media CEO talking about content being pulled, not pushed. That's exactly what's happening. Consumers know exactly what they want, and they'll pull the content they want. Your job is to customize it and personalize it and contextualize it for that particular interaction. And let's not forget the CEO, the CFO, the COO. Anybody who's got C in their title? Are looking at marketing spend and demanding accountability. So they require measurement. Some of the brands I work with are being asked to prove ROI based on accounting principles. For marketers, this is scary. Prove ROI is hard enough. Proving ROI using some accountant is even harder. So I think when we talk to marketers, they tell us, they agree with the statement that marketing needs a comprehensive, end-to-end technology solution that improves effectiveness. So almost 80%, I've asked this question 5 years in a row. Between 70 to 80% of worldwide marketers that we talk to agree that there's a need for this technology, for a technology that supports end-to-end marketing process to improve their efficiency and effectiveness. They understand that without technology, we can't survive in this real-time world. However, they don't buy technology in an organized fashion in marketing organizations. And technology generally creates a lot of complexity in their business. The biggest challenge they tell us with technology is cost, ROI, and proving the budget. Let me quickly ask the room, there's a whole host of Brazilian marketers here. How many of you struggle to make the business case for marketing technology in your organizations today? Show of hands. Don't be shy. Wow. You guys are all analytical marketers then. You know exactly how to make the business case for your technology. Marketers also tell us, right, that they struggle working with IT. They need relief from IT. In fact, there's a brand that I'm not going to name here because I don't want to start a fight between the marketing organization and IT. But the sole reason they picked the technologies they picked was so they don't have to depend on IT and they don't have to work with IT. This is hard to hear, but it's reality. And so when we ask them, how do you decide what technology to work with? The answers they give us are quite interesting. Cost shows up again. Cost of deploying and maintaining a technology solution. Alignment. Making sure the technology that you're buying meets your business requirement. Scale and flexibility of the solution. Can it integrate new channels? Can it grow as I start adding more customers? Is a big deal. Vertical expertise, right? Does the technology provider understand my business? Are they willing to adapt their solution, their roadmap, to meet my vertical's needs? And then one of the most important reasons when people buy technology is they buy it from other people, right? Is there a cultural fit with the person I'm buying from? Do they share my pain? And do they have answers for it? So this whole process of buying technology, embracing technology is complex. It becomes even more complex because we cannot predict what the future holds. The only thing we can predict is that change is inevitable. So any technology we choose to embrace has to be flexible enough and scalable enough to handle that change. As a result, when we talk to companies about their marketing technology strategy, less than 40% of marketing organizations say they even have a technology strategy. IT has a technology strategy. Marketing does not have a technology strategy. Now, based on everything else I've told you today, you need a technology strategy. Half the marketing organizations we talk to lean on external providers for support, which is great because you're buying from experts. But you still need a technology strategy that helps guide you and navigate this process. Now, here's another interesting point. Direct marketers tell us that they, on an average, work with 8 different providers. So think about this scenario where you don't have a technology strategy, you're heavily reliant on vendors, many vendors, to help you. In short, you have a nightmare. You create lots and lots of technology silos. Each vendor you work with has their own unique way of collecting data and sharing information back with you. And you have a measurement nightmare. Yesterday I was talking to a Brazilian media brand. Again, I'm not going to say who these people are. They tell me that the head of e-commerce was discussing how he spends 2 hours a day with his team breaking down the metrics around campaign performance. Because they're getting this data from so many different sources. 2 hours a day. Just figuring out how my campaigns did. Don't feel too bad, right? This is true everywhere today. US and European marketers have similar challenges. So I would suggest to you, you need somebody to own the marketing technology strategy, right? Let's call this the chief marketing technologist. And you need a marketing technology strategy. Now, quickly, I want to share with you a little bit about what this technology looks like, right? We call this the marketing technology backbone. And I'm going to read this definition for you. A technology infrastructure that supports an integrated approach to marketing strategy, development, delivery, and measurement across the marketing mix. So your technology strategy should make sure that you support all phases of the marketing process with the right process, technology, and analytics. Enterprise marketing management is what we call the technology category. Very briefly, it supports every discipline, whether you're an interactive marketer, a social marketer, a brand marketer, a database marketer. It enables integration and collaboration, streamlines your process, ensures that you support planning, accountability, and measurement. So let's look a little bit at this process. If I had to break it down, I would think about 4 big stages in any marketer's life. You plan, you design, you execute, and you measure. At the core of everything that you do, you have data. You have business logic. You have business rules. And you have workflow and governance, the marketing calendar, security, identity management, and so on. Let's look real briefly at each one of these stages. What technology do you need to support planning? Marketing asset management, project management, the marketing calendar, forecasting, media buying technologies, all play a big part as marketers think about planning their strategy. When you come to the design phase, you start to manage lists of customers, you design campaigns, you create offers, you start to think about assigning an offer to a customer. You may, at this point, start to do some segmentation and analytics. You create lots of content, and you start to customize that content and those assets to specific segments or individual customers. Then you start to execute. In the execution stage, you look at tools like campaign management that help you build and execute campaigns, email marketing, lead management, interaction management, and so on. And then finally, you measure business intelligence, KPIs, dashboards, real-time analytics. To me, an enterprise marketing management solution has to support all 4 phases, has to support customer data, sales data, and workflow and business process to align marketing. The benefits of such a suite are very clear. They provide transparency, which means you can be more accountable. You standardize across a single process. They provide business alignment, align your marketing goals with your corporate goals. They let you do programs faster with fewer people. And they ensure that your brand is consistently represented across channels. If I looked at the area, the landscape, I think about enterprise marketing management as supporting 4 specific disciplines. Here they are. Marketing management. Romek next is going to talk about marketing resource management. That's a lot of this discipline, and on supporting the marketing process end to end. Brand management, relationship marketing, and interactive marketing. So, life is changing. It's going to get harder. We as marketing organizations need to build technology, analytics, and process. I would suggest to you, you need a marketing technology strategist, right? As I call them, a chief marketing technologist. So when you think about your marketing technology vision, your strategy, I'm going to share with you 10 points, if you will, that'll help you think through what a marketing technology strategy, what are the good components of a marketing technology strategy. Firstly, understand your business model, right? For me, very simply, you're either a business that sells to consumers, banks, financial services firms fit in here. You're a business that sells to other businesses, or you're a business that sells to consumers but through other businesses. Procter & Gamble, Kraft, others fit in here. When you think about your technology strategy, you have to pay attention to what your business model is. For instance, if you are a B2C business, customer data is very, very, very important. Such businesses, we find, spend half their marketing technology budget on customer data. They often work with dedicated IT staff and generally get managed centrally. Now, if you are a B2B2C customer, the brand and brand awareness is important for you. So if you're Procter & Gamble, if you're Kraft, if you're any one of the big global brands, Coca-Cola, Branding, building the brand, maintaining the brand is critical for you. Such organizations, we find, marketing technology is a small portion of the budget. They rely heavily on outsourcers and agencies, and rather than being adopted centrally, get adopted on a brand-by-brand basis. So I think the first thing to keep in mind is what's the business model that I'm operating in, which then determines what topics I should pay attention to. Second, and very early in the process, you need to figure out how you deliver marketing technology. Do we centralize control? Do we have global strategy and execution? And the good news with global strategy and execution in one place is there's a lot of consistency. The bad news is local markets aren't well supported, particularly local markets that are changing and growing as dramatically as Brazil. You could also go with a local model where each region controls its own technology, data, and marketing process. The benefits of this are very clear. It gives the local regions lots of flexibility and ownership on the process. The challenge is consistency. And then the final approach that you can think about is distributed control. Either global or local strategy and global or local execution, almost a matrix-based organization. The benefits are that they combine the advantages of both central and local control. The challenge with such a model, and this is where I'm seeing a lot of brands headed towards, is this requires a lot of coordination, a lot of communication between central marketing and regional marketing and the different brands. So, point number 2, define your service model. Point number 3, and I think this is very straightforward, is understand what your business requirements are. Don't buy and embrace technology for technology's sake. If you're thinking about getting a listening platform, ask yourself, where must the strength of the listening platform be? Where are my audience today? And does the listening platform track that social media channel really well? So understand your business requirements, take the time to lay them out, detail them, and brainstorm the alignment between the technology and the business requirements. The fourth one, identify where you want to start. Right? There's a lot of technology out there. Ask yourself, do I start as a cross-channel effort? In which case, I need to pay attention to technologies like campaign management, lead management, analytics, and so on. And many B2C organizations, retail organizations, e-commerce organizations will start here. Or do I need to get my marketing operations in place? In which case, should I invest in tools and technologies that support marketing process? And big brands generally go here. Or is the online channel changing my business so much that I need the online technologies, web content management, web analytics, search, and so on? Now, the challenge for us is that we have all three problems. And so when you think about your technology strategy, figure out how these three segments fit into your technology strategy. The fifth suggestion, get your data house in order. Everything we do is going to be based on the data. If we don't have good data, no amount of technology is going to help us. And when you think about data, I like to explain the data problem in 4 layers, right? First, you get your data. organized. Second, you add analytical capabilities that help you analyze the data and understand the metrics you need to track. Third, you put in place the integration between analytics and programs. And then fourth, finally, you start to do cross-channel customer management and optimization. But for any marketing organization, you cannot go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a short span of time. So start by getting your data house in order. Now, we all, as individuals, we have different levels of capacity for new technology. Some of us will buy the first generation of any technology we see, while others will wait and buy tried and tested models. Organizations are very similar. Some organizations are ready for technology, others are not. Here is a quick test across 3 big dimensions: organization, process, and technology, to help you understand and assess your readiness, your organization's readiness for technology. So when you get this deck, go through these questions and answer them. You'll end up with a score. That score will help guide you at what level of readiness you have in your organization for technology. 7, understand the role of marketing operations. When you think about technology, when you go back to your offices, there's really 2 ways you can approach this, right? 1, let's get our creative assets, our brand assets in order. Or 2, let's focus on marketing process. And let's fix marketing process. So once you've thought about data, you think about the role of marketing operations. 8, understand the costs involved, right? Too often, and I see this with brands in the United States and Latin America and Europe, too often you think about this as a software problem. This is not a software problem. This is a change management problem, this is a people problem, this is a support problem as well. So think about all the costs that are involved that drive how you adopt and manage your technology. 9, understand your delivery model. You really have 4 options, regardless of what vendors tell you. You can put the technology in-house. You can put some of the technology in-house, like your customer database. And you can put some of the technology outside, like the application. We call that the hybrid model. You can host everything with a provider. Or you can go on demand. Everything sits in the cloud, including your customer data. Each one of these has benefits and challenges for you. Think about which one works for your consumption model, which one works for your organization. You pay for each one of these differently as well. So some of these you pay capital expenditure, budgets, big spend up front, followed by small spend later. Others, you pay a monthly subscription fee, like the hosted and on-demand models. So budget comes into this as well. And then finally, as you think about your marketing technology strategy, define a vision and build your roadmap. Think about this as a project, right? Lay out your marketing technology strategy into a series of initiatives. Each initiative may have multiple projects. At the end of each initiative, you have technology that works, that adds value to your business. Make sense? Okay. To summarize, right? We're operating in the age of the customer. Mobile, social, the splinternet, and interactive channels dominate in this age of the customer. Brands don't have as much control over the content as they think they do or they would like to. So as marketing organizations, we have to think about data, technology, and process. So the art and science of marketing is changing, right? Technology is something we have to live with. We have to embrace and use effectively. But costs, the complexity of the solutions, the vendor landscape make this a little difficult. I would suggest you need to think about your marketing technology strategy, and I gave you a few tips, 10 in fact, to think about your marketing technology strategy. I'm here the rest of the day. I would welcome any questions now. Here's my contact information. If you want to reach me offline, by all means do. Thank you.
So you talk about the splinternet, which is another version of the balkanization of the internet. Yes. Do you think that's a sort of a sure-shot scenario? Aren't we going to have something like open standards? Maybe if we grow to a point that the web and internet is so vital for everything, don't you think there's going to be some regulatory effort somehow?
Eventually, yes. I think there will be open standards, but I think innovation is often spurred by a few people, and these few people are creating the splinternets. So there may be regulation, there may not. The regulation might vary, but I think the innovation of that splinternets bring is not going to change.
Right. Prepare for government intervention then.
Zala do Edge Group. All the internet community, especially the more active, the heavy user, we are a huge social community nowadays. So Forrest has any prediction about resistance against splitnet? I mean, do you think most of the internet users can start to complain against some companies, like try to create these new barriers? For Apple, as an example, what is the Forrester view about it?
Thanks.
Thank you. That's a great question. So, I'll tell you my view on this thing. Is there resistance to Facebook? Sure is. Still gets a lot of adoption. Is there resistance to Apple? Sure is. Still gets a lot of adoption. At the end of the day, I think on a brand-by-brand basis, you will have to make the decision what your target audience wants. If they are participating in these splintered webs, you have to be prepared to participate in them. If your audience is not participating in those splintered webs or has a resistance to it and is moving, you have to move with them. I think the logic remains what it was 50 years ago. We sell where our audience are. If we sell where our audience are not, then we pack up and go home.
Here.
Max from Garage Interactive Marketing. You mentioned that one of the most relevant shifts will be from cookies to profiles, right? Please share some more about what you mean by profile. Would it be my own company profile? Would it be like generic profiles like Facebook profiles? Or just please share some more.
That's also a great question. I think what we're suggesting here is that in these splintered experiences, in these walled gardens of content, consumers provide information. Different consumers will provide different levels of information, right? As a consumer, when I provide information, I expect you to do something with it. By that I mean I expect you to personalize my engagement with you. Consumers are not very forgiving if I don't use that information to do something relevant for them. When I say profile, I'm suggesting to you that by logging in, I'm indicating a level of involvement that I have that goes beyond a cookie. What is a cookie, after all, other than an address for a computer, not an address for a human being, right? A profile, on the other hand, depending on how much information I share, is the human's intent, right? And so I think the way we think about this model, which used to be a cookie-based audience selection model, which is what we had, right? We start to move to a place where the audience shares so much more information with us. And in some cases, the audience won't share any information with us, right? They may create an avatar, and that might be what you have to interact with. Either way, there's a profile being created that you have to learn to work with. Does that make sense?
But just a personal interesting.
Sure.
How strongly do you believe that Facebook Connect will be the main profile that everybody should start using or not?
I think what Facebook Connect has done is it's given us a chance to leverage the social graph, right? If, as a brand, if we find our consumers are there, we have to leverage it, right? Facebook Connect is probably the easiest deployment of this, right? Will there be other deployments? I'm sure there will, right? Right now, it's probably the best we have.
Edissa Furlan from HP, Brazil. You talk about marketing technology strategies. May you give some examples of businesses that are already doing this very well?
Yeah. Many businesses are embracing marketing technology. I would give some of the examples I would give you are Wells Fargo, American Express, Disney, Tesco, which is a UK grocer, Lloyd's Bank. So yes, there's lots and lots of HP too in the US is a great adopter of marketing technology. I think, and this is the challenge for all of you is we're seeing this shift happen in the US. We're seeing the shift happen in Europe. I haven't studied the Brazilian market yet, but I think the challenge for you is, can you make this shift happen as well?
Are we all going to have to go through this in order to actually, in the SAP sort of style, in order to have data-intensive, user-centered marketing in a social web space?
I sure hope not, right?
You sure hope not, but what do you think it's going to happen?
So I think the good news is most of these platforms that we're talking about are not monolithic. And by that I mean you can adopt it or not, right? And go through significant pain in the process of adopting it. Many of these platforms have new standards of building their technology. You can adopt as much or as little as you want to. You can adopt this in phases. And this is why I think as marketers, as brands, we can't just pick a technology and throw it in there. We have to have a plan for this technology. And it may be we start with email, maybe we start with social listening, it may be we start with social engagement. But I think we need to have a plan and we need to have a strategy on how we tie these pieces together. If our organization cannot take pain and is not ready for some of this stuff, then we don't adopt it, right? The best thing about this is you have a choice. I'm not sure with the ERP things you always had a choice.
Okay, thanks very much, Suresh.